Let's jump into this first story. We have this from the Daily Mail. Chinese spy balloon the size of 3 buses is spotted floating over Montana for days as U.S. mobilizes F22 Raptors to intercept. Biden wanted to shoot it down, but Pentagon advised him not to because of falling debris.
Don't buy it.
They say defense officials discussed shooting out of the sky on Wednesday while it was above Billings, Montana, but decided instead to monitor it closely. F-22 Raptors were sent from Nellis Air Force Base in southern Nevada, but they did not engage with the object. Now, you got this picture here of a tiny dot, but we got you. Look at this thing. It's got solar panels. That's like solar panels, right? Look at that.
So what you're looking at is a technology package. Those are sensors.
Yeah. This is a trial balloon.
Those are sensors.
Like it's literally a spy balloon, right? But I think the reason they did it was to see what they can get away with. And they got away with a lot.
They're getting away with whatever they want.
This thing could be carrying... what if this was a bomb? What if it was some kind of weapon? Or what if it causes Havana syndrome? Who knows?
Well, of course, keep in mind that what they're doing is they're also judging our response. And that's your point with the trial balloon.
Exactly.
So they're going to see how long did it take them to scramble fighters? How long did it take for the balloon to stay there before we scrambled anything up? Is there a diplomatic response? What's the diplomatic? Are they going to put sanctions? Are they going to put tariffs? Keep in mind that you have to look at all of this through the lens of Taiwan, because we know that will be potentially another military flashpoint if we continue our escalation in
they just went into high alert,
right?
Scrambling. They started mobilizing their air defense.
Right, they just scrambled a couple of days ago.
Yeah,
so
because
this has been happening since Biden got in office, basically.
I think this is a bad sign. If China mobilized a bunch of jets and warships, and they've been escalating, firing rockets over Taiwan. Mm-hmm. Taiwan is now mobilizing its defenses. What if this spy balloon is literally to track our response to Taiwan and what they're doing, and they're trying to gather as much information as possible? Well,
the spy balloon itself, and we have to go into what does America have in Montana that could be interesting to the CCP, and I guarantee you it's not just farmland, by the way.
Is it a 4-letter acronym?
It is, which acronym do you mean?
ICBM?
Yes, ICBM, exactly. So the Air Force Base, that when you watch a movie and you see the nuclear silos and the nuclear missiles pop out, one of the 3 fields where we have them, about 150 nuclear long-range nuclear-tipped missiles, the intercontinental ballistic missiles that were within range of China. And these are not the only ones, but this is a key component of the new U.S. nuclear triad, which is located in Montana specifically. That's why I think we may have been on here before once, and you were talking about which state would you want to be if the U.S. fell apart, and I said, well, Montana has nukes. Yeah. So, I'd pick Montana.
It'd be one of the most powerful countries in the world if the U.S. fell apart.
Current military installations in Montana, we have 3 radar sites in Carter County. We have Fort William Henry Harrison in Lewis and Clark County, and Maelstrom Air Force Base in Cascade County.
So Maelstrom's the one that has it, and so of course what they're going to be doing is, now it's also interesting because of course China has spy satellites the same way that we have spy satellites. So we have to look at why are they using a balloon to do this when obviously during the Cold War, for example, the U.S. had the U-2 spy plane. This was aka the Dragon Lady. So there was a pilot who was shot down at one point. It became a POW situation. He was eventually turned over. We had overflights, they had overflights, but then that's largely turned toward, and we still do it, but it's largely turned towards a satellite game at this point. Actually, funny enough, there was an episode of Rogan recently where they were talking about the NGA, and I think it was with Tim Dillon, and each of them weren't really sure what the NGA did. It's spy satellites. That's what the NGA does, the National Geospatial Information Agency, or Intelligence Agency, and so. The Chinese have this capability as well, signals, imagery, etc. So if you want something that's people are looking at this as high, but from an intelligence collection platform, this is actually low.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is it the kind of thing where we have such high tech surveillance things that the low tech stuff can get through now? Like, that kind of thing where you have radars, but you can't see the thing right in front of your face.
Well, like LiDAR, maybe.
We talked about.
They could be mapping the nuclear silos.
You know that famous story where they did like a war game with the old guard and the new guard, and then the old guys won, and they're like, "How did you do it?" And they're like, "We sent a motorcycle courier with the information, so you couldn't intercept it." And I was like, "That's the big deal." What I'm thinking about this balloon is what's worrying to me. And let me know what you think. If China's getting ready to attack. And they know the U.S. will respond to an attack on Taiwan, then they're not concerned. Like a criminal who is going to rob a liquor store is not concerned that he's breaking the law with guns because he's planning on breaking the law in whole. If China's planning and engaging in a military operation they know will create conflict with the U.S., they don't care if we get mad about a balloon. They want to know what we are mobilizing and where.
Now, it's kind of an interesting point that you make, because we know that they have the balloon there. We know that we sent F-22s up. The question is there something that the U.S. government isn't telling us that China was also doing, that they were trying to track the response to our silos? Would there be a cyber attack of Taiwan? Would there be something that maybe not rise to the level of kinetic, like a blockade or a missile strike, and they were trying to test our response to see if we went nuclear with this? But that being said,
this might be a trial balloon for when they do launch their attack in Taiwan, and they're going to want to gauge our response with these Air Force bases in Montana.
I've got a feeling they were in Canada along with the Canadian government's approval, and it got blown off course. I think that might be what happened.
Well, I mean, look, they're currently in the United States.
So basically, Canada is operating as a CCP ship.
They're currently in the United States with U.S. government approval.
Yeah, I was going to say, they've been here for 3 days?
We should have shut, and I think everybody knows that if President Trump were in there, we're in the White House, I mean, we would have found out this thing because something would have blown up in the sky, and then we would have gotten a tweet saying something like, I mean, just imagine the tweet, Chairman Xi, I burst your bubble. We have
this tweet.
Absolutely gone.
The U.S. State Department has reportedly summoned the Chinese ambassador over the Chinese spy balloon, which has been detected flying over northern Montana.
Oh boy, maybe another strongly worded letter will come next.
No. A physical wag of the finger to his face.
Even worse. Even they're really going to give it to him. Severe,
shaking in their boots over
Remember
there.
when Anthony Blinken was talking to China and they just told him to shut up?
So that was in Anchorage, Alaska.
Yep.
And they went up, and Blinken went in there. I remember this because they were. Whenever you're holding one of these summits like this, and he met with Yang Jiechi, which is sort of the interlocutor for the CCP. He's the former Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs, but he's currently on the Politburo. And even though he's the former minister, he's sort of the point man for when it comes to international affairs, Yang Jiechi. And he just ate his lunch. He just completely ate his lunch, and Blinken was saying we're going to set the new normal with China, and we're going to establish the new norms and put this all right. All of those messy Trump years are going to be behind us. And he basically told him that you're nothing to us. You treated him like he treated him like a student, like a little boy almost. Like he basically just said you have no power here. The old like Lord of the Rings.
He said you're not negotiating from a position of power.
That's right.
The U.S. has nothing. Amazing.
You have nothing. We have everything. Well, and so every day, and I want people to look at this spy balloon, and I want particularly older members of the audience who remember the U.S. during the Cold War and remember our response to the Cuban Missile Crisis, or our response to anything that had to do with a direct threat to the American homeland. This would not have been tolerated for even 1 second during the Cold War. But today, we're told, it's not that big of a deal. Don't worry about it. They've done it a few times already. And this package doesn't even... It's not about the censors that are on this. It's about the U.S. response from a political and a military, obviously a military being directed by the political perspective, that if we don't have the political will to defend the homeland against any threat, that just shows, once again, that we are distracted. We are being worn thin in places like Eurasia, where we're currently flooding tanks, money every single day, fighting Russia in this proxy war that we're in with Russia. And now China is considering, and Professor Mearsheimer has talked about this, China is considering opening up what would essentially be for us a second front in a two-front global conflict.
We can't, like World War II. We're not going to be able to handle it.
Meanwhile, Israel just attacked Iran the other day too. So, I mean, how many fronts do you want?
This is going to be a legit world war. It's funny. They talk about World War I and II, and it's like, Europe. World War II, you had Japan, Imperial Japan, but it's kind of like that was its own thing. And there were some, there was obviously concern with the U.S. and U.S. expansion and stuff like that. So it was like World War, but, large portions of the world weren't actively involved. That's why you have First World, Second World, Third World, et cetera. But this time, it's gearing up to be everywhere.
Today is the 80th anniversary of the end of Stalingrad. Mm-hmm. Today is 80 years ago today, the bloodiest conflict in human history ended. The surrender of the German Sixth Army, Field Marshal Paulus, became the highest ranking POW, I think in potentially all of World War II. When he surrendered at Stalingrad, but 2 million people, civilians and military, died in the span of 5 months.
The World War II
in one city.
it was air power. You know, the reason it wasn't on every piece of soil is because the B-52s couldn't reach, or I guess was it the B-52 at that point, the massive bomber?
Is.
They saw like local range, you know, Britain to Germany back, and then the V-2 rockets, Germany to Britain. Now we have lasers from space. We have interorbital bomb strikers. You know, there's nowhere is safe on Earth now.
Well, it's all about this, right? This is exactly what they're focused on, because when Putin gets up there and says this isn't World War II anymore and we have the ability to strike anywhere on the planet, that is the reality of nuclear war. And that's why the Cold War stayed cold. Because there's an interesting dichotomy where obviously nuclear weapons are the most powerful weapon that's ever been created, but they also have this secondary nature whereby it creates for almost a more peaceful war, or a more peaceful world, because if everyone has the ability to destroy everyone else and end all of civilization, it's like everybody standing in the world holding a hand grenade with the pin out and your thumbs down. So, all right, well, I'm not going to drop my hand grenade. You're not going to drop yours either. And then we're all just stuck that way.
And then
then we have to deal with each other.
Trying to like non-proliferation agreements where like, hey, we're going to break down all our nuclear weapons, but no one ever does it. Is that the thing?
I mean, why would you? You put down your hand grenade. Right. No, you put yours down
and
first.
like, no, let's do it at the same time.
Let's do it at the same time.
I got a guy in the back room. He may or may not be building hand grenades, but let's just set our hand grenades down at the same time.
And so my point is, it's not in any country's strategic interest to do this. Much has been brought up of the fact that Ukraine did have some nuclear weapons at the fall of the Soviet Union, and which were later transported to Russia, and now that's why they don't have them during this conflict.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.